title of this chapter is The Perfection of Renunciation. This is the concluding chapter of the Bhagavad-gita, or the last chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. Iti te gyanam akitam guyat guya taramaya vimsritat aseshena yatechatsi tatakuru. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace is confounded child. Sila Abhachan Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thus, I've explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. Please kindly respond to repeat. Thus, I've explained to you knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully. And then do what you wish to do. Purport. The Lord has already explained. Excuse me. The Lord has already explained to Arjuna that knowledge of Brahma Bhuta, let me repeat that. The Lord has already explained to Arjuna the knowledge of Brahma Bhuta. One who is in the Brahma Bhuta condition is joyful. He never laments, nor does he desire anything. That is due to confidential knowledge. Krishna also discloses knowledge of the Super Soul. This is also Brahman knowledge. Knowledge of Brahman, but it is superior. Here are the words, Yate shall see tata kuru. As you like, you may act. Indicate that God does not interfere with the literal independence of the living entity. In Bhagavad-gita, the Lord has explained in all respects how one can elevate his living condition. The best advice imparted to Arjuna is to surrender unto the Super Soul seated within his heart. By right discrimination, one should agree to act according to the order of the Super Soul. That will help one become situated constantly in Krishna consciousness, the highest perfection stage of human life. Arjuna is being directly ordered by the personality of Godhead to fight. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is in the best interest of the living entities. It is not for the interest of the Supreme. Before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on this subject as far as the intelligence goes. That is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such instruction comes also through the spiritual master, the bona fide representative of Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gunajana Salakaya Saksulum Militam Yena Tasmai Si Guruve Namaha Suchaitanya Manobhishta Sthapitam Yena Bhutali Swayam Rupam Kadamaya Dadati Swa Padantikam. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutali Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Itinamani Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Picharini Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Constantine Disappointed. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Sri Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Pancha Kalpataribhya Cha Kripasunubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanabhya Vaishnavabhya Namo. So, the text is very important to us because it has to do with the spiritual decision sciences. When we have to make a decision, we have to deliberate on the pros and cons. When we have to make a decision, we should weigh and relate that the likely outcome to the environmental factors, our family situation, our community, and our personal upliftment. And therefore, if even we are given an instruction, we have the free will to be able to deliberate on it. And here, in the purport, Lord Krishna, Prabhupada basically is bringing to bear how Krishna actually wanted Arjuna to follow the intuition from the Supersoul. Now, if we relate that to our situation, or to the situation of the conditioned soul, well, we may say, the word of Arjuna was also a conditioned soul. Okay, if he says so, that's okay with you. I don't see Arjuna as a conditioned soul. It's called a lila. A lila. When performers are on stage, they take different roles. And the different roles they play after when the whole performance is done, they go back to their original situations. And so Arjuna basically is an eternal associate of the Lord. And otherwise, I mean, where do we get all these theater art ideas if it's not coming from the Lord? Theater art performers, you know, in the 21st century, actors and actresses, they are worshipped like a deity, isn't it? Yeah. Unfortunately, some of them have been put to jail because they commit some crimes, financial crimes. But, you know, the idea is that anyone can commit a crime. Anyone can get involved in some unhealthy situation. So, theater art originates from the Lord. When he came into the material world to enact this different type of leelas, it is a spiritual theater art. And so, in the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna, Prabhupada is important here that Krishna was basically wanting Arjuna to act based on intuitions he gets or he got from the super soul within, the Chaitya Guru. The super soul is also referred to as a Chaitya Guru, the Guru from within. That takes a lot of purification and high spiritual intelligence to be able to get to that level where one is able to get or to hear, to receive instructions from the super soul. Because the super soul is within the region of the heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam really say Arjuna Tistati. Lord Krishna mentions that he is residing in each and everyone's heart region as the super soul. So that knowledge of the super soul, Papa mentions in the purport, that is also Brahman knowledge, knowledge of spirit, but it's a superior Brahman knowledge. Because in the beginning of spiritual understanding, one has an awareness or has an understanding that the spirit or the Brahman is all pervasive. But then, on the second stage of the 3 steps of realizing God or realizing Krishna, that is the super soul. And when we understand that the super soul is an expansion of Vishnu, who is there within the heart region to guide us, not to dare to just book down all the things we have done and punish us in the future, but to guide us. In other words, the super soul is not the CIA. So, Prabhupada mentions that Arjuna, the surrender of Arjuna should be that he takes instructions from the super soul. But Krishna was also happy with Arjuna when ultimately he said, I've given up my own ideas. I'm now your servant. I'm so surrendered unto you. Do what you give me any instructions you want. I will execute it. So here Krishna is mentioning, look, I've told you all that you need to know. The confidential, the more confidential, the most confidential. And now you deliberate on it and do what you deem appropriate. So, what is it that could be appropriate, or in that circumstance, what could be the assessment tool to evaluate what is best for Arjuna? He said, deliberate on what I've told you. You have heard me. I've said about this, about confidential knowledge, more confidential knowledge, most confidential knowledge. Now, ponder on this, reflect, get into, reflective thinking and figure out what is best for you. Why did Krishna have to do that? Because Krishna loves the living entities. If you love someone, you don't force your ideas on the person. You give them a chance. You don't micromanage them. When you don't have trust in anybody, if you don't have trust, say you're a boss in the office, so you have employed someone in your organization, you don't trust the person, you micromanage them. You don't trust them. They may cheat you. So you don't give them any chance. I mean, but if you trust them and you love them, you just give them, the basic standard, what is expected of the norms of the organization, and you give them a chance to be able to deliberate how they can improve on the organizational behavioral system to enhance performance. So Arjuna also here basically, Krishna wants him to understand that, look, I'm not a micromanager. I care for you. I love you. I've told you all of these things. But you know what? I'm not forcing any of this on you, okay? You just, look at what is best for you. And therefore, it calls for a reflection on the concept of rational choice. These social scientists, when they get into the Vedic literature, read so many things, and then they come up to form their own conceptualizations, and they say, I developed this theory. But there is that rational choice. Everyone has got that rational choice. If we choose to do something that could be detrimental, we are held responsible. If we choose to do something that could elevate ourselves, elevate society, and promote a unity, harmony in society, promotes peace and harmony, if we go down into the Guinness Book of Records. And so it's all based on rational choice. That's what exactly Krishna is mentioning here. This is the fundamental principle here is rational choice. You have a rational choice. Do what you deem appropriate. You got all the gist. Do what you like. It's only prisoners who are forced. If you're in a prison, you don't have options. You have to be a zombie. Take your left, take your right, move back, move forward. That's all that you have to do. You take instructions, you don't ask, is it good for me or is it bad for me? Because you're there. Why? You are a criminal. So you don't have any rational choice in the prison. But as a free person, a freelance spiritual soul, a spirit soul, we have a rational choice. And Krishna wants us to exercise that rational choice. And therefore, he mentioned to Arjuna here that exercise your rational choice. What is best for you? That's what you need to do. But ultimately, Arjuna made a very good decision and surrendered unto Krishna and Krishna's instructions. So, Papa also mentions in the last two sentences, by surrendering, one is free to deliberate. Before surrendering, one is free to deliberate on the subject as far as his or her intelligence could allow. Then, it is the best way to accept the instruction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the best way to accept. We don't take instructions. We don't read something and we say, or then we just, without thinking about what we read and then say, yeah, this is what I have to do. No, we have to think about it. We have to reflect on it. Then we ponder, we weigh the pros and cons. This is only obtainable with someone who has sober intelligence. If someone is not sober, they will act based on what Papa will call their whimsy. And there are so many cases of people who act against even their better judgment. Even Katie Hill, she said that she knew this sin is bad, and she acted against her better judgment. That was a very promising woman in the United States. Promising politician. But you know what? You could be very excellent, could be very brilliant, very sharp, very articulate. If one is bankrupt spiritually, you may get to the top. And then within a twinkle of an eye, you start sliding down. And so spiritual values are important, not just to go back home, back to God. To create a sustainable social future, we need spiritual values. We need proper decision making. And that is also based on spiritual values. I was reading yesterday on one lady in Long Island. She just she and her husband, they just finished a divorce last week. The previous week, yeah, this is Saturday. Last week, they just finished a divorce, settlement. And then this week, just this week, her 3 children and herself, they found dead in the house. She shot the 3 children, killed them, and turned the weapon to herself. Now, it's so common in the 21st century for someone to feel frustrated and say, well, let me rest, let me die and go rest in peace. And you can't blame anybody, because it is not part of the educational culture to educate people about the consequences of, say, taking life. If you take someone's life, you have abused your rational choice, your right of rational choice. You've abused it. And what comes along with that is that you pay a price that you can never even think of. So I'll give you an example, just a gross example. When we abuse our rational choice, say we take someone's life, like that lady did, for whatever that happened with frustrations she had with her husband, and then she came to kill her 3 children, and then killed herself, to end up maybe to give the ex-husband a lot of pain. But the point is that Yamaraj will have to deal with her in a very horrible way. First, she took her life. 1 life. She took the life of 3 children. 4. And so there is nothing. If even we kill someone and then we put, one girl, one teenage girl, she killed her father, shot her father dead. And then the mother declared her to be her hero. Why? The reason why she killed the dad was that the dad has been very abusive. Abusive to her mom, abusive to them, the children. So she wants her peace. She went to jail, whether a year or 2 years or so, she's out now. But when you kill somebody, the material judicial system, the material legal system operative right now can't really save you. When you do something like that, you come back in your next life to be killed in the same way. So you have to create a very negative circle. But people don't know. This is where spiritual education is so important. And so when people don't receive proper instructions, they just act whimsically. So Arjuna is basically not the type that acts whimsically, and therefore when Krishna spoke to him and gave him a chance to deliberate, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who could have just forced his ideas on Arjuna. Hey, I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You just do this, or I use a blade of grass to cut off your neck. He could have done. He could have done that. Afterwards, he used the blade of grass to cut off. What's the name of this guy? Ramahasa Sutta. A blade of grass. Finishes it. Even the so-called fight with his uncle. What's the name again? Kamsa. With his so-called fight with Kamsa. It's just part of the theater arts. Otherwise, if he wants to kill Kamsa, he doesn't need to fight with Kamsa. It's just a blade of grass. A blade of grass. He carries a blade of grass and turns like this, and he's gone. But Krishna also he enjoys activities. Krishna enjoys activities. In fact, life without activities, life without association with other human beings, it could be very difficult, you know. That is why Brahma made it in such a way that a human being, can hardly live by themselves. That's why you create this bond of husband and wife. And so it's a social it's a social condition. When Prabhupada says we are conditioned souls, sometimes it's very difficult to really explicate that very concept. But the point is that whether we like to receive Krishna's instructions, like Arjuna did, and do the needful for our own elevation, or we want to act whimsically, it's up to us. We have the liberty. But the best thing is to act like Arjuna, where he was arguing with Krishna, but ultimately he sought to reason that Krishna was actually his best friend, and he wanted to cooperate, work with Krishna, serve Krishna in the best way that he could, and ultimately surrendered unto him based on the realizations that he had in mind. And so here, the objective of this very text is to bring us to the understanding that we do have limited independence, and Krishna does not force his ideas on us. So if Krishna doesn't force his ideas on us, think about it. We're tiny jivas. We are just so infinitesimal. Krishna doesn't force his ideas on the jiva. He wants us to be proactive. Proactive in the sense that act in ways that will be elevating to our condition and ways that could extricate us from these shackles of material bondage. So, what's the time now?
6:30 March.
Okay. So we'll speak some things about Prabhupada. Actually, Prabhupada. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's do.
All right.
Can we do questions? Because
Sure.
we move-
We might forget the questions. Yeah.
Should I go?
Sure.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies first. Okay.
So, Hare Krishna.
Horrible.
I have a twofold question
Okay.
about your example of prisoners. And that was sort of a material example, but I want you to speak about the spiritual, aspect of it. So you were talking about prisoners not having free will because they're essentially being directed in doing what they're doing, and someone is telling them what to do. In the material sense, because this is my field of work, so in the material sense, that is called a controlled environment. So a person who is incarcerated, they don't have a choice but to follow the rule because they don't have any liberties. So wouldn't that, if we take that in the spiritual, aspect, wouldn't that be better, considering that if you don't have a choice, you're being given the Vedas, you don't have a choice but to follow, and then you become perfected. So can you discuss this? That's
It's making me laugh because what you're saying, I don't know, it's a very high realization, but even a toddler doesn't want to be told what to do. If the mother tells a toddler, hey John, sit down there, that's the time John stands up. No, I've seen that. We don't want to be controlled. So Krishna knows better, okay? So he gives us so independence. Because without that independence, even the relative happiness we have, we will not have it. Every time the whole, emotions will be those, anger and, I don't like to be controlled. But someone I love can control me. The same thing. That is also from the concept of a Krishna relationship with his devotees. Look, Krishna is the supreme controller, Ishvara. He is the supreme Ishvara. He is Param Ishvara, the supreme controller. We are little, small controllers. So we are also, by nature, service-oriented. We are servants. So these two, it looks like there's a contradiction because we have that inherent nature to control, okay? And we have that inherent nature also to serve. But in both of them go together. Both of them go together. Okay, like if you're the breadwinner of the house, family, there's a spouse, there are children. The breadwinner, whether you like it or not, if it is the woman, she exercises control. If it is the man, he exercises control. Why? Because money speaks. It's a power. And so that is why in modern times, if the husband and wife, both of them are working, there is a balance. There's a balance of power shift. If one person is just solely dependent on the other, oh, you sell your controllership out. And so the bottom line is that we are controllers, small controllers. We are also service oriented. And therefore, to just force us to be controlled, that is counterproductive to our business of controllership. So Krishna knows that he gave this, he endows us with that potential of control or proclivity to control. He knows that. And so if he comes to impose himself on us, there'll be what would I say? Is it a conflict of interest? No. There'll be a conflict of power play, okay? Look at, if you empower someone in the office to do some certain things, you want high performance, you give them the liberty to be innovative, to generate ideas, to be able to walk through things so that first thing, there will be high performance. Second, they will be extremely happy because most bosses, they try to control their subjects or those who are working under them. And so Krishna knows he's the supreme boss, so he knows the nature of the living entity. So he doesn't want to create any conflict. He wants some cordial relationship between himself and the jiva. And therefore, he gives us some independence so that, and he doesn't only give us independence and leaves us alone. He expands himself as the super soul in our heart region to guide us. The problem is that we are not on high elevated position to be able to take that guidance from the super soul. Therefore, Papa mentioned in the purport, we need, because we are not on that stage of receiving instruction from the Chaitya Guru, we need someone external to guide us. That is the external manifestation of the Chaitya Guru, external manifestation of the super soul. That's the spiritual master. And even the spiritual master, they don't force their ideas on us. In most cases, no. They ask you what you want to do, and they can only suggest to you about what they think that you could do to be able to make progress in your life. That's a standard. 4 rules Prabhupada given to us. Those everyone should have to follow. But in terms of individual accelerated progress, people work according to their, according to their time and their potentials. When you have someone who knows your potentials and guides you accordingly, then you make accelerated progress. So all of those is part of the package of the little independence Krishna has given to us. Otherwise, we become like zombies. No one can be happy by being a zombie. Just like no prisoner is happy because they're zombies. So we, as individual jiva, we are trying to be able to relate with Krishna in a loving way, and Krishna loves us so dearly. So if you love someone so dearly, you give them some independence. You give them some independence. Otherwise, where is the love? you just tell them to do everything. Even a little toddler don't want to be controlled all the time. So, yeah, that's the major reason why Krishna created that environment of giving us some little bit of independence, but then we need to be guided He didn't leave us alone. He expanded himself as a super soul to guide us. And if those of us who are not getting to that level of getting the guidance of the super soul, he arranged for the spiritual master to guide us. So this is how the whole system works. Does it make some sense? All right. Yes, Prabhu.
I have several questions.
Not several, because we have to talk about I don't want to speak about Prabhupada. Yes.
Krishna.
Okay.
Krishna's saying, do what you want. He forgot to mention a couple things.
Okay.
He forgot to mention that if you don't do what I want, the material energy is going to beat you into a pulp until you do. And he also, you quoted the first two lines of that verse that says, Brahmayan Sabhabhutani Yantra Rudrani Mayaya. You're being controlled already. You're being directed. So could you explain a little more detail to understand if we're being controlled, we're sitting on a machine as if made of material energy. We're being controlled and Maya is beating us. So what's the question about free choice?
Yeah, there's still a free choice. The free choice here is that with our human form of life, we can choose our next phase of existence. Because we are not animals. Animals act instinctively. In fact, even we have criminal codes and road traffic addicts just to shaping people's behavioral patterns. Now, if you say, well, I'm an independent American. I'm not going to drive on the right side of the road. Then you say, okay. The cops will tell you, all right, you're a good guy, we'll give you a fine. So we have laws. The point is that sometimes people will come to Krishna consciousness and say, hey, your rules are just too much. There's so many laws, so many rules. But we are also, materially speaking, guided by so many rules. There are road traffic addicts. There are criminal codes. And so no one can say that they are so independent, they will do everything based on their whimsy. And so that is how the system in conditioned life, that's the operative system in conditioned life. We have to go by some rules. Even the government does not force us, but there are set down rules that we must follow. Otherwise, we will be forced to go to prison. That is it. And the good thing in America is that, I remember the case of one guy. he wanted to have a wedding with a girlfriend. He wanted to get married, but he had no money to get the wedding ring. Huh? So he went to the bank to rob. He went to the bank. What do you call them? The people at the front there.
Tellers.
He went to the tellers to say that I need some money. I'm having a wedding just on such a day. I don't have money to get all of these things done. I have a weapon. So the teller gave the money and called the cops, and everything is being screened. That's how he got some money. But then when the police came away after him, they posted some things on social media, I think on Facebook and all this thing. The girlfriend saw it. And then he said, he called him, and he said, you went to the bank to rob? Go turn yourself in. Go turn yourself in, because that's not proper. This is discriminating intelligence. So, some people, we are not like, everyone out there is not a politician. I am not the Republican. Anything that my man does, whether it's criminal or not, it's right. No, he's correct. I'm a Democrat. Whatever my man does, if even is criminal, no, you can't impeach him. That impeachment has been there since time immemorial. Even, what's the name of this king who was impeached? Impeachment in those days, in the Vedic culture, is not done by opposing parties. It's done by independent liberal Brahmins who are not part of the power play. They don't receive money, salary, so they are independent. They only watch your good works based on the constitution. And so the bottom line is that we need to have some higher values to be able to understand higher subject matters, and then we can help to create the transformation we want in society. So let me go quickly to Prabhupada's disappearance. If you have some questions, maybe later after we can talk. Because if we listen to questions, then we know we talk about Prabhupada's disappearance. So this is the very house, this is the very place that Prabhupada established this Krishna Consciousness Movement, International Society for Krishna Consciousness Movement. In fact, when he was to inaugurate this international organization, this global organization, someone told him, you don't have to name it Krishna consciousness. You have to say God consciousness, because that is more appealing to people. That is more the person is not wrong, because learning begins from the known to the unknown. If you say something that nobody knows about, or completely, first thing is they have to be, cracking their brains to figure out what it means. But if you say God, International Society of God Consciousness, there are so many people, they know about God, that is a supreme being. So, but then when Prabhupada was advised to call the society International Society for God Consciousness, he didn't resonate with that idea. He stuck to his guns. He wanted people to be inquisitive about this very unfamiliar concept. And basically, it helps to create or to revamp a spiritual environment, an enabling environment for people to make inquiries. I mean, it's like people see Krishna on the front of the Krishna book. Immediately, it's very attractive. And in most cases, people ask, who is that lady? Who is that beautiful lady on your book? So Prabhupada established his movement. This very place is where he worked papers out to incorporate this movement. And that's why I kept mentioning this. Each time I come here, I always had emphasized a number of times that this very place is a very, a great theater. If even you are not able to go to Mayapur, this place is not different from Mayapur. Because this is where Prabhupada inaugurated the Krishna Consciousness Movement. This is where he incorporated it, this is where he inaugurated it. This is where he had his first disciples in America. And so, the Krishna Consciousness that was established by Prabhupada is basically about revamping spiritual values of individuals and communities. And so when he came here, he came to the US and started this movement, there were a lot of challenges that he had to pass through. I remember one of this, which city was he? And he was staying in a particular, in Pennsylvania. What's the name of that city?
Butler.
Oh, yeah, Butler. So when he was there, in a home where he stayed, he was sharing a refrigerator that was containing meat, fish, eggs, everything. The home where he was staying, they were meat eaters. So this is a good thing for us to understand, so that we don't feel that I'm in this situation. No. This is this is my principle. No. That's one of the challenges that Papa has to pass through. But then, Papa had a lot of, it's a good example of someone imbued with adjustments. It's so difficult for people to be adjustive. And lack of psychological adjustment. In fact, people who have to disagree so much with other people, they cause some frictions. This is also one of the reasons when they are not adjustive. It's called maladjustment. Someone could be adjustive, someone could be maladjusted. And someone is suffering from maladjustment, it is so difficult for that person to make progress in their life. Papa was very adjustive. When he came to Bola and he was staying in that home, he knew that he was not going to stay there forever or for long, but that was a transition point. And so when we have to do some preaching, we have to understand that in the beginning there could be a lot of challenges. And so even when he came to New York, and one of the places he stayed, his typewriter was stolen. An old man, 69, 70 years old, he came by himself to the West, he came by himself to America, and someone has to burgle his house. And so when those type of things happen, there is every tendency for someone to feel frustrated. But he was firm, determined on executing the orders of his spiritual master. The most difficult thing is to execute the orders of one's spiritual master. That is one of the most difficult things in spiritual life. Because we have that independence, but Papa also has that independence. And when he was told by his Guru Maharaj, his Bhaktisiddhanta told him that if you ever have money, go to the West, print books in English, and spread the message of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It did not take him such a big time to understand those very instructions. And he was contemplating on how to be able to execute that order. But eventually he came to the West, and then God is Krishna consciousness established. And I remember in planting the seed, when first initiation was to take place in this very place. that was the day that, you know, the devotees were, some of the devotees had asked Prabhupada, so, but what is our commitment? he was giving classes, people were coming. He didn't talk about commitment. And he created a very great bond of affinity, very tight bond of relationship with all of these people. And when he wanted to give them instruction, some of them asked, what is expected of us? And then he opened up to say, you chant 64 rounds. And then he said, I think some of them really couldn't contain it, they objected. They said that that's not possible. They said that's not possible. So Prabhupada adjusted, and then it's all right, 32. And then again, some of them complained that it's not still practical. And Prabhupada said 16 minimum. You take it or you leave it. So if you read Planting the Seed, you understand how the initial adventures of Prabhupada in New York. So it's an important point for us to know that Prabhupada did have a lot of challenges, but he was dedicated to executing the instructions of his spiritual master. And Lord Chaitanya and his spiritual master sent so many devotees to him. In this very place, I think I mentioned that also one of the time. Sometimes the place is was mostly being encountered by, hippies and potheads. But Papa was very liberal. Sometimes we think that we have liberal, that we have, this is great, we are liberal Democrats. But Papa was more liberal than anyone else. And so he would accommodate anybody who came. And even if he had even an apple, he would slice that apple after the class and then cut it to pieces and give it to each and every one of them. He was very service-oriented to people who came to him in the beginning. And that service orientation never left him. He lived with it for a whole lifetime. And so, when he started this movement and asked some devotees, some of them were couples, to go to different places to establish temples. Again, they follow his instruction and they were very successful. And so Prabhupada had written he wrote so many books. The books were already there, but he translated these books in a language that anyone can understand. Why I say that? Because books written by Bhaktisiddhanta, for instance, his own spiritual master, books, if you have ever read it, say the Brahma Samhita by Bhaktisiddhanta, his purports, you have to get a dictionary by yourself. Because it's highfalutin. And why he put it in that way? A number of the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta were top scholars. So according to his audience, he wrote the books in that way. But Prabhupada, when he came to the West, he mingled with all of these type of different people, the low class and the high class, the middle class. And so he wrote all of his commentaries, his translation works, in ways that anyone, even on the street, can pick up his literature, read and understand, and then seek out for Krishna. And so we have a real spiritual warrior, the founder, Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But Prabhupada also was very much, he had very high ideas. I remember when I was in Toronto one time, they have this big temple in Toronto. It was formerly a church. And so one of Prabhupada's disciples, initially when Prabhupada went there, one lady, she was one of the board members in Toronto Temple, because I've never been to Toronto for like up to 5 years or so. So, but I don't know what is the situation now. So she told me how when Prabhupada came to Toronto one time, they were going on a walk, she herself, her husband, and some other devotees were on a walk with Prabhupada. And Prabhupada saw this big building. And he told them, and we need that building for the temple. So she told Prabhupada, we don't have money. Prabhupada had high aim. And so, the bottom line about that is that he had this vision of, spreading Krishna consciousness to all nooks and crannies of the world. And anyone who encountered him, he cultivated them in such a way that that person will identify with his mission statement, his purpose, and his vision. Now, if we read also the planting the seed, Prabhupada also stipulated his mission statement, his vision, and his goals. And so, if someone has founded an organization, and even this happens in any university when a professor comes and then establish, say, a faculty of management, his purpose, his vision and mission, they are stamped on the wall or in any of the office, so that anybody who is coming to take charge of that management will understand these were the goals, vision, and mission statement of the founder. And therefore, if we follow that full step, if we prosecute those goals, vision, and mission, it becomes so easy not to speak about a spiritual culture. And so we are not asked to invent some new ideas. Everything the Prabhupada wanted us to do, they already stipulated. Distribute my books, come together to discuss about Krishna, care for each other. He exemplified that in his own life, caring for the devotees. I remember one devotee told me, Shikimaiti, he told me how, Prabhupada disciple, he told me how in Mayapur, him or someone was very, very sick. Himself. He was very, very sick. And Prabhupada at that time was on a wheelchair, terribly sick. But Prabhupada had that, this devotee is sick. And he completely forgot about his own situation. And he had to give orders. Hey, go and meet this doctor. Go and call this person. Go and call this person. So devotees with them were just too lovingly surprised. And so the love that Prabhupada, projected on his followers, especially in those early days in America. The people he encountered at that time were mostly hippies. The people who have, who are dissatisfied with the social culture, with the wealth of their families and all these things. And then they move into the streets to become, whatever life they want to live. And when they met Prabhupada, the way Prabhupada treated them with love and care made a number of them to give their lives to Prabhupada. And that's how Prabhupada established this movement. And so it's so important for us, those of us who are interested in helping to spread Prabhupada's mission, we should read the foundations of his movement, say planting the seed, how he started this program. Prabhupada was born in Calcutta, but he left his body in Vrindavan. And so, what basically that tells us is that, I remember somebody was telling me how they plan to retire. I met a husband and wife. I don't want to mention the state. I met a husband and wife. The both of them are doctors, medical doctors, young couples. And so the wife was telling me her plans about, when they retire, they have to do this, they have to do that. And then the husband interjected. He said, hey, I'm not going to follow all of your plans. When I retire, I want to go and preach. So preaching is the essence. That's what Prabhupada said. And some people imbibe that culture. I remember again a gentleman in South Africa. He had 3 kids. And the 3 kids, 2 of them are doctors. So, but then he told me in confidence, he said, Maharaj, look, I don't want to be here to take care of grandchildren. Mm-hmm. When I retire, I'm going to Vrindavan to be able to help in preaching the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we should also have an agenda in our lives. Like Prabhupada had an agenda to spread this Krishna consciousness. We are fortunate to be the recipients of the sacrifice that Prabhupada made on behalf of his spiritual master. And therefore, today we are celebrating or talking about our Prabhupada's disappearance. But then all of us also will disappear one day. What is the legacy that we have to leave behind? We can have so many plans. But the point is, what plans for Krishna do we have? And so, with all of the books that Prabhupada has written, and I know a number of us, we are so busy, we don't have time to read. But even we don't have time to read, you want to really appreciate what Prabhupada has done, read Planting the Seed. It's a little literature about the history of, the early history of Krishna consciousness, written by Satsvarup Goswami. And that gives us an idea about the challenges that Prabhupada faced when he came to New York and how a number of devotees came up to help him because Prabhupada received the empowerment of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta. If one cannot spread Krishna consciousness all over the world like that without being empowered. Krishna Shakti Vinanahe Tara Pravartana. So, my suggestion is, if you want to know more about those wonderful pastimes of Prabhupada in those early days when he came to establish this movement here in India, read Planting the Seed. Hare Krishna. In America, we have to do everything according to time. We have limited time. I know a place like in India, when you say, what time are we going to start this class? They say, Mara, you're not in America, you just speak on. Yeah, I know a number of times in Delhi, people tell you that. Yes, so, any comment about Prabhupada? Yes.
Here's a comment, and my question can be introduced with a story about Prabhupada. My
Okay.
comment is, what to speak of a big building in Toronto? When Prabhupada came to 55th Street in 1976, he was on the roof. He pointed to the Empire State Building and said, "We should get that built." So I had a question, but I'll introduce it with a story I just heard coming down here that Giriraj Maharaj told about Prabhupada. So it was Bombay, 77. Prabhupada was very sick. He came to Juhu. And so they set up quarters for him. He had his room. Then there was an empty room, another empty room, and then the secretary, Tamal Krishna, was there. So Giriraj was the president. So he went up to see Tamal Krishna. Nobody was seeing Prabhupada. They didn't want to leave him undisturbed. So when he came into the room, Tamal Krishna Maharaj said to him, "I'd like you to go to the bank and make this deposit." Giriraj says, "I'm the temple president. You can get anybody to do that. I have so many important things." They spoke very quietly. All of a sudden, Prabhupada's bell rang. So they rushed into the room. Prabhupada looked at Giriraj and said, "If I tell you to go to the bank and make a deposit, and you say no, what is the question of your surrender?" So, of course, Giriraj was shocked that Prabhupada knew this, because there was, how can he have heard that? My question, though, is, Prabhupada talked about we should deliberate, we should think about it, and do we give that up when we surrender and just accept blindly what the spiritual master says, or is there a scope for still questioning? And then not just the spiritual master, in a worldwide organization, to what degree do we give up that kind of intelligent questioning to the authorities that are representing Prabhupada?
That's a nice point. Basically, I can also tell you another story. That was this devotee, I can't remember his name, but it was on Saturday, or on Sunday or Saturday, I think on Sunday, and Prabhupada gave me a letter to go to the post office and post it. So the devotee said, "Today is Sunday. They don't open post office today." So Prabhupada said, "Just go." And so when he went, he met the postmaster just, right there. So he said he wanted to post it. I said, "Well, I can help you." So, yeah, it is very difficult to understand why a Vaishnava does what it does, how he does what it does. So that is difficult. But we are conditioned souls. We can't measure up to Prabhupada. In fact, if we have to compare or begin to try to do the things that Prabhupada did, we will cause chaos. We will cause chaos. Because we see a number of the encounters of Prabhupada, even some of these scholars, when he would chastise them heavily, but some of them turned to become his disciples. Now the thing is, if he says something that could even be heavy, he did that out of love. But in some cases we find ourselves in a complete mess where we want our ego to be the dominant factor, and that creates a lot of friction. So yeah, right now, I would suggest, and I question people, yeah, we should accept, a Raja Rishi or a Paramahamsa, his words without questioning. But I am not a Raja Rishi. When I say something, you question me. Oh yeah. I love being questioned. I love being queried. People don't like it, but I mean, as a scholar, I'm sorry to say that, but as a scholar, we train to be critical. I mean, it's like, I remember one time I went to a conference. I was much younger, when I was 29 or 30. I went to an academic conference, and one of the young organizers of the conference, one young professor, one young doctor, he came to call us the younger scholars. He said, "Hey guys, go to that hall number such and such, go there. Such and such professor, he's presenting his paper there. He thinks he knows too much. Go and find fault in his paper." This is the training, which is counterproductive to the humility that's expected in Krishna consciousness. So, I mean, I would say for myself, question me. Don't accept my words hook, line, and sinker. Don't accept my words blindly. I like to be questioned. Yeah. All right, so we'll stop there. Thank you again very much for coming to participate in Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.